All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you are ready for a very interesting session today with us about securing payment data with data security standards with a focus on DSS version 4. A very interesting presentation is due by Mr. Nitin Bhattanagar, Associate Director, PCI Security Standards Council of India. So welcome all to this session. Before I start, I would like to thank a few of our collaborating partners, our strategic partners, and also our community partners. So very special thanks goes to Security Standards Council, AISP, WISPA, and then our strategic partners, FITIS, LASCOM, and the Chamber of Commerce. We also like to thank our community partners, ISACA, and also the young IEEE students. So thanks very much for your partnership and being part of this program. So before going into the details, I would like to also give you a little bit of an introduction to ISC Squared Colombo chapter, which has made this presentation possible for you today. And it is actually reaching its 10th anniversary today. So this year, so it's a milestone for us as a chapter as well. And I would like to just give you a brief introduction to it. So ISC Squared Colombo chapter is a Sri Lankan non-profit organization and is affiliated of the International Information System Security Certification Consortium Incorporated. Its objective is to improve information security in Sri Lanka by providing its members and other security professionals with the opportunity to share knowledge, grow professionally, educate others, and work together on projects. The chapter provides its members who are working or have close ties to Colombo a forum to expedite and exchange knowledge and ideas, development of leadership, and of course, professional skills. It also provides its members with an access to a range of industry resources and educational programs to keep its members informed of the latest advances in technology and practices. Members consist of cyber and information software, industry and infrastructure security professionals. The ISC Squared credential professionals who hold either SSCP, CCFP, CSSLP, CSP, and or CISSP. The chapter is focused on sharing knowledge and exchanging ideas amongst security professionals in Sri Lanka, and also collaborating with various industries and countries all over the world. I must say, under the leadership of Mr. Sujit Christie, ISC Colombo chapter recently received the prestigious recognition of ISC2 Chapter Recognitions Award for Asia Pacific Region 2022 in the Global Achievements Awards category, while the chapter achieved its milestone of 10 years in Sri Lanka, which is a great achievement for us. So we encourage you, Sri Lankan participants of this program, also share the word around to join the chapter and be part of these programs, which we have been actively promoting over the last year or so. You can find us on www.isc2colombochapter.com. Currently, a little bit of construction going on there, so you might have to wait maybe a week or so. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, all those platforms we are available. So please note, before I start the program and give the introductions to the rest of the guests as well as the speaker, that you may post your questions in the chat box, and we'll be sure to pick them up and take it later on when we present it to the speaker. Please use the chat box to ask your questions. So I would first like to introduce a very distinguished guest joining us today, and I would like to introduce one of them, specifically not a stranger to the banking community in Sri Lanka, Mr. Jeremy De Silva, President of the Association of Professional Bankers of Sri Lanka, and who is also the Deputy General Manager, Head of Internal Audit, Pan Asia Bank Corporation PLC. I invite Mr. De Silva to share some opening remarks about the event, the subject at this time. Would you like to introduce, have a brief introduction and also some remarks, Mr. De Silva?
Thank you very much, Chaminda, for the introduction. And thank you very much, President Sujit Christie of the ISC, for inviting APB to collaborate on this occasion of having an event which is on an important subject, securing the payments gateway and with data security, which is, I think, the most important element today in online payments or any category of payments that we are now much familiar after post-COVID environment. So APB is one of the premier banking professional bodies that host many professional bankers. And today we have quite a number of our members also joining in for this webinar. And it's an opportunity for APB to collaborate with other associated educational chapters in carrying forward continuous professional development programs for its membership and broad base in the knowledge skill that is required for the upcoming season or the new year after COVID, because so many changes are there, the skill set has to be updated. So thank you very much, and congratulations to the ISC chapter on its 10th anniversary on behalf of APB. Thank you very much for inviting APB to join and collaborate with this event. I'll hand over to the panelists so that you can continue the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. De Silva, for joining us today, and also the participants who have joined in today at this time. As Mr. De Silva mentioned, it is a very important subject, and no better person is actually here today to actually present this subject to us. So let me introduce Nitin Bhatnagar, Associate Director, PCI Security Standards Council, leads the council actually in the efforts of in increasing adoption and awareness of PCI security standards in India. In this role, Nitin works closely with PCI Council management team, payments brands, SSS community, participating organization, government entities, and regulators. Mr. Bhatnagar is an innovative thinker, speaker, television personality, which is very interesting, and a technical writer, and has been often quoted in cybersecurity news stories. And he has been quoted by news organizations, including the BBC, ET Now, CNBC TV 18, Reuters, Economic Times, Times of India. Wow, it's a great personality to have this kind of caliber person actually presenting to us. So Bhatnagar has been working in the payments security domain for close upon a decade and a half, and has been recently recognized amongst the top 50 cybersecurity leaders of India 2021. He has been constantly part of research and development around the role of new emerging technologies, i.e., in example, basically artificial intelligence, machine learning, protecting payment infrastructure from sophisticated cyber attacks. So it possesses a bachelor's degree in computer science from Bandaka and University, Janhashi, and a master's in cyber law and information security from India Institute of Information Technology. So without further delay, I invite Nitin to commence his presentation. Nitin, over to you, and hope all of you will enjoy and also get something productive out of this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sujit. Thank you, ISC chapter Sri Lanka, Colombo, and many congratulations on your 10th anniversary. I just got to know about this. Many congratulations, and thanks, Chaminda, for the nice introduction that you have put across. I'm still trying to learn so many things, so please pardon me if I'm not able to answer any question of yours, or probably the answers are not satisfactory. So please pardon me. I'll try my level best to answer and brief you on whatever I'm going to present today. To start with, I'll move on to the next slide, talking about who we are. PCI Security Standards Council is a global forum, and we work on developing these standards. And the intention of PCI Security Standard Council is to drive a lot of adoption around the data security standards that we have today, and the resources to save the payments worldwide. So you see a few logos on my screen. So they are all the PCI participating payment brands, including Amex, Discovery, JCB, MasterCard, UnionPay, and Visa. So just to keep you posted, the 5 payment brands are the one who have founded, which is Visa, MasterCard, Amex, JCB, Discover. So UnionPay is just recently been added as one of the participating payments, and they are a strategic member to the PCI Security Standards Council. So in interest of everyone, what we do, PCI SSC manages the standards and not compliance, which is evident from this slide that you see on your screen. So just to give you an idea, what we do is PCI develops and maintains the PCI security standards and programs. We provide training, tools, and educational resources to support the implementation of the PCI data security standards. And what we don't do is we do not manage compliance. So many of people think that PCI usually manages the compliance. They may be maintaining some database of the compliances, but we really do not do all those. Because our primary role is to develop the standards and make sure the SSS community are being trained to assess the environment pertaining to PCI standards, and they are trained to accomplish the same. So if you have any compliance related questions or queries, I would request everyone on this session today to direct them to the payment networks. If at all, I have something to add on, if I can answer that, probably I'll try my level best. Talking about, before I, look more deeply into, what has been going on with the PCI Security Standards Council, let me also introduce, the PCI SSC, the mission that we have. So our mission is very simple, which is to help secure the payment data. And how we do about is we have 4 strategic pillars that you can see on the screen. One. What we do is that we are developing the standards and supporting the servers that drive education awareness and effective implementation by the stakeholders. And the 4 pillars that we have is to increase. The first pillar talks about increasing industry participation and knowledge. That's what we are trying to do now. Evolve security standards and validation, which I'm going to touch point in my slides, talking about what's new with PCI DSS version 4.0. Securing emerging payment channels, and increase standard alignment and consistency. So these are the 4 strategic pillars that we have, and whatever that we do, whatever the standards that we develop are being developed keeping these 4 strategic pillars in mind. Moving on to the next slide, talking about the regional involvement. As on today, we have NPCI, which is National Payment Corporation of India, as one of our affiliate member and board of advisors from the region. And they have been actively contributing to the development of the standards, and would request a similar kind of contribution from Sri Lanka. And I think looking forward to more engagements going forward as we discuss, Mr. Sujit. Talking about the spike in the digital payments, I think if you see, there was a recent report by ACI worldwide that, in fact, talks about that 70.3 billion real-time payments transactions were processed globally in 2020. which has been a surge of close to 41% compared to the previous year, which is pre-COVID. Now, I think this is also saying that 3 and 4 transactions are going to be digital in 2025, which is a great number to look into it. But when we talk about increase in the digital payments or the digital transactions and expanding our businesses means more targets and data for criminals. Now, yes, when I say the criminals, they are definitely out there and they're trying to find ways to harm your business for illicit gains. Now, there was a report from Cyber Threat Defense, which came out in 2021. I just wanted to highlight few instances of the stats from that report, and these are very interesting stats. Over 86% organization experienced at least one successful cyber attack within the preceding 12 months, with about 4 in 10 organizations experiencing 6 incidents or more, which is a huge number. More than 2/3 of organizations were victimized by ransomware. I'm sure you have all been hearing about ransomware attacks, and I think which is all ransomware attacks have been keeping busy, and including ransomware, malwares, spear phishing also continue to cause most headaches. Where 0-day attacks not as much. Now, 9 out of 10 organizations have been affected by cyber attacks targeting web and mobile applications, and these includes your carding, payment frauds attacks, where attackers use has been using bots to test list of recently stolen credit and debit card details on the merchant websites, and through the skimmings. And your digital skimming and mage card attacks accounted to close to 29.6%, where attackers have injected malicious code into third-party JavaScript to steal the credit card data. And one of the major learning, probably the stats that is not on the screen, is number one barrier, we can call it, is the IT security success is low security awareness among employees, and which followed by the lack of skilled personals. So I think that's the kind of global threat landscape that we all are looking at currently. So I collected some top 5 learnings from a recent report, which was released by one of the assessors, in the region, CISA. So the top 5 learnings that I'm able to pull out here is secure vulnerable loopholes. I think that was the first learning that, based on their forensic investigations on the payment data breach, they have highlighted. So ensuring here your vulnerabilities with the CVSS score of 6.5 and higher are mitigated immediately, and the organizations should be running a data discovery and classification tool across your organization to identify that if there's any data which is critical in nature needs to be protected as quickly as possible. Second learning has been around strengthening the endpoint responses. So ensuring that all the endpoints are monitored and use cases of endpoints are configured. And the third is deploying into the intelligent monitoring. And I think just continuing with the monitoring, I think ensuring your monitoring activities covers the entire technology infrastructure and deploying ML-based anomaly detection tools, which is largely, you should not restrict yourselves to specific areas within your organization for monitoring devices. You should cover, the entire technology infrastructure, which is helping you in processing some data which may have the card data as well. Performing periodic user and role reviews on all your SaaS applications, conducting access audits, review access privileges to meet the changing needs. I think it's very important. The last but not the least is executing a proper incident response and forensics. So conducting your forensics review of the logs and forensics readiness audit to access preparedness to detect, manage, and investigate a security incident. So I think if we are able to leverage on these few learnings that just I talked about, probably we can bring down the risk factor within your organizations of getting impacted with the data breach. So moving on to this slide, and moving on to the standards largely to talk about. So that's where the standards roles comes into the picture. So PCI Security Standards Council today have 15 data security standards. You can see on the screen, there are some separate, there are actors defined, starting from issuer, consumer, merchants, vendors, solution provider, acquirer, processor, and issuer. So each entity, each actor in this ecosystem, in the payment ecosystem, have to adopt to the PCI standards. But these are the standards. But if you have any compliance pertaining questions, you have to redirect them to the payment networks, because the payment networks are the one who drive the compliance programs for each individual standards. But the standards that you see on the screen are required to be adopted by each of the actor that you see on the screen. Not necessarily all the standards may be required by all, but you have to evaluate with your assessor to check which standards gets applicable to protect the payment data. So let me quickly start on the updates on the PCI DSS version 4.0. So just wanted to highlight before I get into the DSS 4.0 changes that has come by on the standard, and walk you through some of those requirements. So we typically held 3 RFCs. So we requested industry for the comments while we were developing the version 4.0. And 2 RFCs for the draft standard and 1 for the validation documents was released, which also includes your reporting templates and attestation documents. So we have received incredible amount of inputs, over close to 6,000 comments from more than 200 companies, and which is a massive number of feedback that we have received while we were developing the standard. And in addition to the RFC, also we did a survey on the ROC and AOC in 2019, which received close to 700 comments from that survey. So you can see this revision is the result of a collaborative effort with the PCI community globally. So this is where it all started, and we have kept into consideration 4 goals. First goal is to keep ensuring that the standard continues to meet the security needs of the payment industry. Second is to add flexibility to support different methodologies being used to achieve security. Third is to promote security as a continuous process. And fourth is to enhance the validation methods and procedures. So talking about the 12 requirements, so I think the 12 requirements remain same. So there are no changes drastically to the 12 requirements, but if you read it very carefully, the wordings to these requirements have changed. So for example, let me talk about requirement number 1. So requirement number 1 talks about updated firewall technology to network security controls to support a broader range of technologies used to meet the security objectives traditionally met by the firewalls. Talking about requirement number 2, broaden wording, since requirement number 2 has always covered more than vendor default supplied. Now we also covers the secure configuration in general. Just give me a sorry for that. Requirement number 2, just let me repeat. I think we have broadened the wordings on the requirement, which talks about. So initially the requirement talks about vendor supply defaults. Now it's going to cover the secure configuration in general. Talking about requirement number 3, we have broadened the wording to emphasize that account data, not just cardholder data, needs to be protected. So that's, you can see a difference that has come into the requirement number 3. Initially, it just talked about protect cardholder data. Requirement number 4 has a minor rewording to reflect focus on strong cryptography. Requirement number 5 also got updated to clarify that the system and networks need to be protected from the malicious software. So this is the minor change or the wording change that has come to the requirement number 5. Requirement number 6 is to emphasize software than applications. Talking about requirement number 7, it got updated to include both the system components and cardholder data. Requirement number 9, 8 and 9 doesn't have any major change. They remains as is, but within the requirements, you will see some sub requirements which has been got added. Requirement number 10 talks about updated logs rather than the track, and also includes the system components. Requirement number 11 updated to clarify the requirements intended focus on systems and networks. requirement number 12 also got updated to emphasize the goal of overarching policies and procedures. One major change that has come in all is that, internal vulnerability assessment, which used to be done with non-credential base, it has become a credential based scan now. So the vulnerability assessment that you do with version 4.0 is required to be done with the credential base. And also the multi-factor authentication requirements have also evolved with version 4.0, which was not the case with version 3.2.1. Talking about, I think there has been a lot of question on the validation. And I think one of the goal was to enhance our validation process. And I think validating to the PCI DSS version 4.0 has come up with two different options. So I think the two options in the standard now for validating is, one is the defined approach. The defined approach, which follows the current PCI DSS requirement and testing procedures, which is suitable for entities with security implementation that align with the current requirements, provide direction on how to meet the security audit. So this is the traditional way that you have been doing the PCI DSS audit so far. So there's no change to that. So that remains there. What has changed is your customized approach. So now we have introduced a customized approach as one of the new option to meet the PCI DSS requirements. Now here, the entity determines the controls that are used to meet the stated objectives. The entity's role with the customized approach is to perform a risk analysis and address the risk, define and document controls, and perform its own testing to verify the control is working or not. Because now each customized implementation is different and they are not defined. There are not going to be any defined testing procedures. Now, instead, the assessors here, the QSA, the qualified security assessors, will be required to carefully evaluate the entity's customized approach documentation and then develop the testing procedures that are appropriate to the specific implementation. And then accordingly perform the test to validate the customized approach or the customized control meet the stated intent of the requirement. Now, this approach provides the entities a greater flexibility to use alternative security controls, probably often, we can call them new emerging technologies, to meet the certain requirements of the PCI DSS object requirements. And now these new technologies often often do not fit within the traditional method, for implementing and validating the PCI DSS. Probably the bankers who are on the call may agree to it. And also it takes a lot of efforts than the defined approach. And now the customized approach is only best fitted for risk mature entities with the robust security processes. So that's one thing that everyone on the call today has to take into consideration, that if you have a strong, mature security processes and risk, you are a risk mature entity, then you should definitely go and opt for customized approach as one of the option to validate the PCI DSS requirements. Now, moving on to the next slide. The slides largely talks about the compensating controls, and and I think many people on this call would be familiar with this compensating control as one of the approach. There is still an option for those using the defined approach, but the compensating controls, for entities that cannot meet. So let me just read or refresh what is compensating controls. So compensating controls are only for those entities that cannot meet a requirement due to a business or a technical constraint. Now, entities implementing an alternative controls that mitigates the same risk. Now, but there's most likely an underlying non-compliant system or process that cannot be addressed. Often the customized approach objective cannot be met either. So if you have a business or a technical constraint, that's where you should use a compensating control as an approach. Now, the customized approach is for entities that have an innovative approach to meet the objective of the requirement in a different way. So I'm not talking about a business or technical constraint. It's about an innovative approach to meet the objective of a requirement just in a different way. Now, the entity who chooses to implement a different control that meets the customized approach objective, but the controls may not meet the specifics in the PCI DSS requirements itself. Now here, the customized approach would require the entity having a strong management practices and can document exactly how the approach meets the requirements objective. So that's the difference between the compensating control and the customized approach. Now for compensating controls, we have added some appendix, and we have also added some clarifications that a compensating control cannot be used to retroactively to address a requirement that was missed in the past. So what happens, sometimes you miss a requirement and then you jump on to try to meet a certain requirement by adopting to a compensating control. So now this is a clarification for the industry or the stakeholders that you cannot address a requirement which you have missed in the past to get your annual validation as part of your annual validation process. So you cannot take compensating controls as an approach to address certain requirements. Now, for example, where a task, just to make it more in layman term, where a task that should have been performed was not performed and no action was taken at the time to address it. That's what I mean. The compensating control cannot be used at that point. And for customized approach, we have also added an Appendix D and Appendix E in the standard that provides more details on completing the customized approach and provides templates for the entity to complete both your control metrics and also your risk analysis templates. So this is the difference between the customized approach, the compensating controls, and its users. So I think if you have any questions to that, please drop in a chat box. I will try to answer them as we move forward. Talking about the roles that the customized approach, in the customized approach, who's going to play what role? So we have, I'm going to walk you through, I've segregated that into two parts. So I have segregated that as one entity's role and others the SS's role. So both of them have an equal role to play. How? So entity's role is to document and maintain evidence about each customized control. Entity here could be a bank or a large corporate or an IT service provider. Perform and document a targeted risk analysis as per requirement of PCI DSS 12.3.2 for each customized control. The entity again here is to perform testing of each customized control to prove effectiveness and document testing performed, methods used, what was tested, when testing was performed, and the results of testing in controls metrics, which I just highlighted. Appendix D and E has all those matrices where you can get all support. Entity here also need to monitor and maintain evidences about effectiveness of each customized control. Entity again here needs to provide completed control matrices, targeted risk analysis, testing evidences, and evidences of customized control effectiveness to your SSS. So this is the role or the top 5 points that the entity has to take into consideration. Now, what's the role of an assessor here? The assessor role here is to review the entity's control matrices, targeted risk analysis, evidence of control effectiveness to fully understand the customized controls, and also to verify the entity is meeting all customized approach documents and evidences, and also evidence the requirements. So that's the first point that assessor has to take care of. And the second is the assessor also need to drive and document the appropriate testing procedures needed to conduct thorough testing of each customized control. The third important role of an assessor here is to test each customized control to determine whether the entity's implementation is meeting the requirements of the customized approach objective, result in place finding the requirement, and at all the times, most importantly, what the assessor has to take into consideration is the independence requirements which are defined in the QSA qualification requirements. So this is the role of an entity and an assessor while you are adopting to the customized approach as one of the option for validating your PCI DSS requirements in version 4.0. So what it comes out to be is that working together is going to be a key, both the QSA and the organization. And the customized approach is not what you do when you hit a problem during your annual assessment. So it is not the responsibility of the QSA to define your customized approach. This is also just wanted to keep everyone clear on. It is entity's responsibility to define your respective customized approach. It is the responsibility of the QSA to validate your customized approach, not design or define it. So the customized approach is not at all an easier option. It must, as a minimum, to achieve the same level of security as defined as the defined approach provides. So probably, so you need to work with your QSA to make sure that you are aligned when you are adopting to PCI DSS version 4.0 and the customized approach. Now, entity and its assessor are expected as to work together to ensure, three things. First, they should agree that the customized control fully meets the customized approach objective. Second, the assessor fully understands the customized controls. And the third, the entity understands the derived testing the assessor will perform. So these three things are very critical for the entity and its assessor, when they are working together to meet the requirements of PCI DSS as part of the customized approach. Moving on to the next slide, talking about which entities can use the customized approach. So the entity that completes a SSQ, which is a self-assessment questionnaire, is not eligible to use a customized approach. However, an SEQ eligible entity may elect to have a QSA or ISA, which I'm going to talk more about in detail in my next few slides, on their assessments and document it in the ROC template. The use of the customized approach may be regulated by organizations that manage compliance programs, for example, the payment brands or acquirers, probably acquirers banks that that we are talking about here. And so I think that typically, therefore, the question about the use of a customized approach must be referred to those organizations, including, for example, whether an entity that is eligible for a self-assessment questionnaire may instead complete a ROC to use the customized approach, and whether an entity is required to use a QSA or may use an ISA to complete an assessment using the customized approach. So Appendix D and E of PCI DSS version 4.0 will help you on more details on while you're adopting to the customized approach as an option to implement the PCI DSS requirements. Next slide largely talks about the guidance. So I think we have as we evolve on the PCI DSS version 4.0, we have also added a lot of guidance to version 4.0. For instance, a couple of examples that I'll just highlight here, is the PCI DSS applicability information section. So some PCI DSS requirements may apply for entities that do not store, process, or transmit your PAN. Right? We have clarified that terms account data, the cardholder data, the sensitive authentication data, and PAN are not interchangeable and are used intentionally in PCI DSS. Meaning, when we say PAN, we mean PAN and not all account data. So this is a quick guidance that we have provided as part of the PCI DSS version 4.0. PCI DSS and software standards. We are talking, softwares are playing a very crucial role. So we rewrote this entire section to cover all PCI software standards. Now, we have also added a new Appendix F to discuss the role of PCI software standards in helping to address the elements of requirement number 6. So we mentioned that, the PA-DSS is retiring in 2022. So I'm sure everybody knows on the call that PA-DSS, which is the Payment Application Data Security Standard, is retiring in October 2022. And we have already stopped accepting new applications for PA-DSS. So you will see PCI SSF where the industry has to adopt to the standards of PCI software security standards. So we have added that as one of the guidance. We have also added a diagram to scope of the PCI DSS requirements section for understanding the PCI DSS scoping, adapted from our scoping information supplement. We have also added the third-party service providers. So there has been a lot of new guidance, to clarify on the third-party relationship. So I would definitely encourage all of you on the call to review this section thoroughly if you haven't already. There has been description on timeframes to clarify the frequencies and timeframes specified in the PCI DSS requirements and related expectations, and much more. So there are a lot of guidance that you will see as part of PCI DSS version 4.0 standard. And I would request everyone on this call to have a complete review on the standard if you are in the phase on a transition from version 3.2.1 to version 4.0, because this is going to help you in meeting the requirements in the specific stipulated time frame. Talking about the cloud and other technologies. So I think we are often asked about how PCI DSS support the new emerging technologies and payments. So just to highlight that one part is that PCI DSS has always been a technology neutral. So the requirements are intended to apply to all types of environments, even if a type of technology is not specifically called out in the standard. The intent of the security requirements is still applicable. Now, version 4.0, we refocused requirements and added objective statements to better emphasize its broad applicability to technologies of all types. So in addition, the PCI DSS version 4.0, that includes the customized approach for most requirements, specifically to provide entities that have implemented strong risk management practices with more flexibility. If they are using different ways to achieve the requirements, defined objective using different technologies and processes. Now, I think we have covered that as part of the customized approach. But having said that, we also have emphasized to the cloud in several areas. So in the scope of PCI DSS requirements, where numerous types of system components are called out, we reworked on Appendix A1, which used to apply to shared hosting providers. Now those entities are now called multi-tenant service providers. Now with a definition that makes clear this applies to cloud providers as well. Now the new requirement for multi-tenant service providers is to support or provide evidence to customers for pen testing, which was not the requirement in the earlier standard version 3.2.1. So which is a major relief, and cloud has been taken as one of the area of consideration in the PCI DSS version 4.0. Moving on to the implementation of PCI DSS version 4.0, I'll walk you through a couple of slides, which largely talks about the implementation timeline. So PCI DSS version 3.2.1 will remain active for 2 years, after the 4.0 is released. 4.0 is released on 31st March. So 31st March 2024 is the date when version 3.2.1 will be retired. Now, this transition period is designed to give organizations time to become familiar with the changes in version 4.0. In addition to that, the 2-year time frame, most of the new requirements are initially best practices in version 4.0. And there is a further period of time after the retirement of version 3.2.1 before these best practices becomes the actual requirements. Now, the effective date for those new requirements will be 31st March 2025. So still have time. Once the standards get retired, still you have time to implement those future dated requirements. Now, it is also worth noting that there are a lot of new and updated requirements, and we strongly encourage entities to start familiarizing themselves with the changes and begin your planning for any implementation updates they need to make. And please do not wait until the last minute, because DSS 4.0 has some major changes to the requirements, and there are new requirements that have been added. will have a major impact if you're a large organization. 2 years may look little simple, or not simple. It will look little more larger. It's a 2 years, but time has already passed. 6 months, 7 months has already passed since we released the standard. We just 1.5 year away from the retirement of version 3.2.1. So I have a secret sauce for the implementation timeline. So I'll walk it through and talk about what organizations should be doing for implementing the PCI DSS version 4.0. So that's what is here on the screen. Organizations here need to start planning now to make sure they use the time they have available. So we have used old age principle, which talks about plan, do, check, act. Now it shows the best use available time. Now, so this is how I see spending next 2 years if I have to adopt to the PCI DSS version 4.0. So first is the planning phase. First thing first, I think you need to read the new standard and understand all of the changes that have been made, and importantly, how they will affect your organization. Second is to set up the task forces, groups within, to start implementing necessary changes for your organization. Check, work with your QSA to carry out a gap analysis. Have your QSA undertake a gap analysis to point out where the changes need to be made to ensure you meet the new requirements. Once you're done with plan, do, check, act, implement the necessary work so that the your 2024 assessment, you are going to meet the PCI DSS requirements without fail. So having a plan, do, check, act as one of the old age principle in consideration, you can meet the PCI DSS requirements, and that may help you in meeting or meeting the requirements by March 2024, when the PCI DSS version 3.2.1 will get retired. So this is a little secret sauce that I thought I'll share with you all, which is going to help you in implementing the PCI DSS version 4.0. And most importantly, I think the one of the takeaway is that you have to work with your QSA and get at least your within ISAs, which is internal security assessors within your organization, who can understand the nuances of implementation and can help you walk through the and take you through the journey of PCI DSS version 4.0. Moving on to the next slide, I'll give you another update on what PCI Security Standard Council has been working on is the mobile payments. So I think the next, we have been doing a round of blogs we have published, and we are currently working on evolving, the CPOC and SPOC standard. So we have been coming up with the mobile payments on cards. This is the working name of the new standard, which is intended to be released towards the end of this year. And this new efforts, would encompass solutions and deployment models, which has been already supported by SPOC and CPOC standard, and would also, will help in creating the flexible standard, provide the structure that support multiple payment acceptance channel and consumer verification methods. And also the MPOG standard will provide the greater flexibility for solutions with different architectures. So please expect, we have already gone through an RFC phase, completed. The standard is under development. We may expect something coming out towards the end of this year or early next year. So moving on to the next slide, I think getting involved with the council is quite critical for you to help secure payment data, just not regionally, but globally. We just last week completed with the North America community meeting in Toronto. The next upcoming meeting is in Milan, in Italy, which is we call it as a European community meeting. We have an Asia Pacific forum, which is coming up in November. Dates are going to be released soon. Please do keep an eye on PCI Security Standards Council website. We are also coming towards the end of this year, the global content library. So this content library is going to be accessible to all the members of PCI Security Standard Council with whatever the presentation that have happened globally at PCI Security Standards Council. You can get access to those repositories towards the end of this is also going to be live towards end of this year. Another major update that I just wanted to share with everyone is that we have the new structure together to join PCI Security Standards Council, and the 3 levels. So initially there was only 1 level, which is participating organization who can contribute and influence the PCI standards and help us getting, you talk about RFC, you can contribute to these standards through RFC processes if you have any feedback. So we have now 3 level of structures. One is principal, associate, and individuals. Now, initially it was just a participating organization, which was restricted. Now we have opened it to individuals as well. Anyone can be a member now with the PCI Council. Talking about principal, that helps you, provide more inputs, help you with the more collaboration with the council, more interaction on both technical and strategical level. Talking about associates, it remains same as participating organization, but it also gives you more opportunities to interact with the stakeholders globally. It helps you influence these standards, also more occasions to get involved within the council. And individual level, it also, again, more community expertise at the table. So as an individual, you can always share your feedback to the council. You have access to all the resources that that you will have today if you are an individual member to the council, and more collaboration opportunities in the future. So these 3 levels are going to be active early next year, starting off January 2023. But with more representation means more seats. So board of today, with the participating organizations, we have a board of advisor created. So board of advisor currently have 30 seats, but in future, as we are going to roll out the new program, the seats are going to get increased on a global level. So the seats are going to be 56, which is a great number to have industry-wide contribution coming into the PCI Council. So not only will you have more inputs, you will also get a vote. So the board of advisors will now be voting on. So initially everything was with the council, and it's been, though we've been driving a lot of things, but now we have now the board of advisors are the one who are going to decide on the new standards for publication, any major revision to the standards, existing standards. So board of advisors will have more say in terms of providing more inputs and getting more collaborated within the council and take things to the next level. Talking about other opportunities of the council is the learning. I think we have 2 training programs: PCIP, which is a payment card industry professional certificate, implementing, which helps you gaining that qualification to implement and maintain the PCI DSS within your organization. So PCIP is an individual certificate, and it's valid for 3 years. And it's an individual level, entry level qualification that you can get to understand the basics of PCI DSS. This is the most important program that we have, is an ISA, which I have also highlighted. Internal Security Assessor program provides training and qualification to individuals within a company on assessing their organization adherence to PCI DSS. Now, specifically, the ISA program also teaches individuals, at merchant service providers or acquired companies, how to perform internal assessments and recommend solutions to remediate issues related to the PCI DSS compliance. I think I was and Suchit was discussing before the session, how this is going to benefit whether internal auditors within the organization, what kind of level of certification they should be having, or probably what expertise that they should be having. And if you are undergoing a PCI DSS journey, and having an ISA is definitely going to help you liaison better with your external PCI auditors, manage the interactions with the qualified security assessors, and manage your compliance cost. So these are the quite a good benefits, because see, if you are an internal auditor for a bank and you're going through a PCI compliance journey, so the ISAs and the QSs are trained on equal platform. Having that kind of a knowledge or expertise on table will definitely help you in liaising with your QSA faster and in a very streamlined manner, to understand what the QSA needs are, to meet the certain requirements of PCI DSS, and also you are well prepared before they come for the final audit or probably for a quarterly reviews, you will be best positioned to get your internal compliance journey on a fast track mode. So the only difference is that ISA has to be sponsored by a company, while when you talk about the QSA has to work with a qualified security assessor, and QSA can sign off on multiple reports. ISA can sign off only on that respective sponsored organization report on compliance or attestation of compliance. So ISAs also receives same communication and same communication as the QSA receives, or you get the benefits equivalent to the QSAs. And if you talk about getting this, you can visit PCI Security Standards Council website to get more information how you can get yourself enrolled to PCIPs or ISAs. Hope this is relevant for you if you are part of the group or our internal audit team, who has been doing the PCI DSS audits within your organization. I think that's what I have today to present. And if you want to really get involved, please drop an email to participation@PCISecurityStandards.org. Someone from our team will definitely get back to you on your requirements. Thank you very much.
Shami, do we have questions? I think there are a few questions. Maybe do you want to take them?
Yes, there are a couple of questions. Give me a moment. Yeah. We have first question on by Kasun Natupattu. Can we conduct risk assessments and follow up with the acceptable level risk treatment plan with the compensating controls without direct approach? That's from Kasun Natupattu on Zoom.
So are you looking at customized approach as an option, or it's a standard defined approach that you're going to adopt? If it is a customized approach, then definitely the customized approach, you have to define everything as I have discussed in my my talk. You have to define, you have to conduct a risk analysis. You have to define your own controls. You have to test yourself. The QSA role here is only to validate them and accept whether you are meeting to the requirements of the intent of the PCI DSS requirement. So, and in the defined approach, definitely the compensating controls can be used as we just spoke about.
Yeah, and we have another question on LinkedIn by Subhash Chandra. Where are we with PCI SSF certification? Does every payment software organization now get PCI SSF instead of PA-DSS? That's from Subhash. Yeah, that's
true. So PA-DSS is retiring in October 2022. I think September is already here. It's going to retire in next few days. So there has been a transition from PA-DSS to PCI SSF. Yes, and definitely PCI SSF, which is software security framework standards, are required to be adopted by these softwares to get your software validated against these standards. So you have to visit your assessor to get more details on how you should get your softwares validated against these standards.
Nitin, may I request you to close the presentation so that we can get a better...
Okay, sure.
Review? Oh, that's awesome. Right. Okay. So there's one more question, right? Dulcinda Ulshan, he's asking what kind of criteria we need to consider when we select the QSA for the assignment. Difficult question.
It's a very difficult question. So for me, every QSA is equal. For me, every QSA is equal. It's it's the individual organization's call. How you want. What are the parameters that you have to judge a QSA, right? So for me, everyone is equal, and for me, everyone is good. But at the same time, it's the organization who has to create their own ways to evaluate internally based on your requirements, which QSA is going to work best for you. Probably one of those maybe location probably, location is the best way to pick and choose some, but the good, the standing, their credibility point of view, they're all equal to it.
Excellent. Chami, do you have any questions with you?
No, not at the moment.
I have one question. Does the requirement 4 tell us what cryptography algorithms or key length should be used instead of a strong cryptography?
I think, standard, definitely there are requirements that talks about a specific what kind of key lengths, the crypto algorithms that you should be using. I think we have to go more depth in the requirements. If you go through the standard, definitely you will get that answer. And yes, there are a set of requirements which are set and explained. So as I said, there are a lot of guidance given in version 4.0 now. So as in the guidance section of the standard, you will see all that respective guidance that you need to adopt while you're implementing the that particular requirement to meet the intent. You will get definitely in the standard.
All right. So there's a couple more questions. So we have a little more time. So let's take those as well. Is there any plans to schedule the QSA training in Sri Lanka?
Why not?
IC² is ready to provide the ground support.
Sure.
Nitin,
So I think,
you.
yeah, we can do that. We can do that definitely. If there are demand, if there's definitely a demand to do a QSA training. So today we have e-learning platforms also. If at all, people are interested and there are companies who are planning to become a QSA or there are existing QSA company who wants to train their employees and become a QSA, definitely we can plan for that. We have two options. We have an e-learning option, is still valid. We can use that as an option to conduct QSA training. And if you want to do an on-site, probably in-person training, that can also be practically possible. So as of now, there's nothing scheduled, but if there's a demand, and we are ready to supply.
Excellent. So I think, Nitin, you have answered this question before, but nevertheless, right? I mean, Venkatesh has asked this question. Can we continue to undergo PCI DSS 3.2.1 in the year 2023, then implement 4.0 in 2024? So I would say, look at two scenarios. One for people who are starting afresh, what is that you would advise? And for those people who are already certified, what should they be doing?
So if you are new to information security and you're looking for adopting to the PCI DSS, definitely a defined approach will work for you. But if you are already in the industry, been adopting PCI DSS standard and you're a large organization, you have a robust security processes and a strong risk management processes within, you should adopt for the customized approach, because that's going to help you. So for the newcomers, I would definitely say that, you should look at a defined approach, because you may be just starting your journey. But people with the experience and who have already gone through this for last, a decade or close, definitely, and your large corporates, large organizations should definitely adopt to the customized approach as an option, as a validating option.
Absolutely. Is there anybody else who have any questions?
I got one more question from WhatsApp. Not sure whether you answered it.
No.
Is ISA training provided online or face-to-face? What is the prerequisite to
Both.
become
I think it's a ISA is also, it has to be a sponsored by an organization for which you are working. And this can be done through an e-learning platform and also through the on-site training, which happens anywhere in the world.
Okay. And the second part of that question, what is the prerequisite to become a certified ISA?
Certified ISA, I think you have to be qualified. You have to have certain certifications like CISSC, SSP, and things like that. And I think that's a prerequisite. You should have minimum experience of 5 years plus. I think you're all good to get to the PCI ISA or QSA.
That means, there are a lot of collaboration which needs to take place.
Definitely.
Jeremy, do you have any questions on behalf of the professional bankers which you want to just throw in and step in and ask?
Not really, because in the Sri Lankan context, I think the regulators, central bank has a different view on the payments and settlements, which they have set up certain guidelines. So the banks, the financial institutions will have to stick on to those guidelines, collaborating with the respective merchants in delivering those payments. And Ankaclear is now updating most of those requirements in collaboration with the central bank to make it more user-friendly and educate the users of how important in using online methods, the security aspects, paying attention to the security aspect, because that is one thing post-COVID was a lot of people started sudden use of online, not realizing the importance of your password or how secured your network was, and fell into difficulties in having online payments being duplicated, that sort of thing. So this is one area is awareness that of the users that is required to understand how to use secured payments for carrying out their various types of transactions. So that's the most important factor that I see important. And the other side, as for the learned audiences, the aspect is of when you implement a system is to see from the grassroots level what are the core places that security aspects should be thought of and implemented at the early stages. Because once a system is been implemented and gone live, it's difficult to implement security patches, which could also be a deterrent to the users. So that is where I think a lot of people do not pay attention too much at their initial stages at the UAT user acceptance testing level to check all security aspects that should be there. So those are some things that I think learning from this program, some of the audience could pick up and implement in their day-to-day activities. That's it, Sujit. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Jeremy. So one last question before we wrap up for the day, right? There's a question from Udit. What would be the change to the entities that would be using third parties such as Stripe to process payments and users SAQA?
Vidit, you're mute, I think.
Yeah. I was just reading the question, and I was thinking whether I'm in a position to answer this question because it's more
So
towards
maybe we can
compliance.
respond offline. We can
Yeah.
respond offline. So let's leave it at this moment. And then there is one more question. If the financial organization utilize Bitcoin, is still they can adhere to PCI DSS 4.0?
I think I answered that question probably in my transcript. See, standard will not talk about the technology. We are technology neutral standard, and but the standard requirements are applicable to any kind of data or information. So it's up to you. It's the best of the best standard that you can have, a technology standard to protect the data information, right? We designed it specifically for the cards, but now I think it can be used for any kind of data or information.
Absolutely. And then very specially to build applications so that you can secure, at each of those layers. So like everything good has to come to an end. So Nitin, thank you so much for taking time to share all your knowledge and experience. And I must especially thank you for one thing. You didn't hesitate to say yes when I actually reached out to you. That means a lot to me, right? I mean, we go a long way and we've known each other for several years. Correct. But yet, when I asked you for this help, and I think we are one of the first to talk about 4.0 in this part of the world. And thank you so much for being here and sharing the wealth of experience. And as we discussed, if there's anything you feel that we can be of help on the ground to create awareness amongst the ecosystem, financial ecosystem, we'll be more than happy to do that, Nitin. So once again, thank you so much. And I also want to thank PCI Security Standards Council for being very supportive, and very especially your team, the speaking team, right? So I mean, I interacted with so many people I can't remember them of their names right now, but I want to thank each and every one of them being so supportive, providing all the information we wanted on a timely basis. Thank you so much. And
Thank you very
Jeremy,
much.
thank you so much for being here representing the Association of Professional Bankers. Just a start for us, and look forward to working with you, doing many more programs with you. And I also want to thank all our supporting partners, IC Squared Delhi chapter, IC Squared Dhaka chapter, IC Squared Hyderabad chapter. I also want to thank our collaboration partners, again, Association of Professional Bankers Sri Lanka, Association of Information Security Professionals Singapore, and Women in Security Alliance Philippines. And then, of course, our strategic partners, FITIS, SLASCOM, Ceylon Chamber of Commerce and Chamber Academy, and community partners, ISACA Sri Lanka chapter and Young Professionals Sri Lanka. So thank you so much again for everyone joining this session. I also have an announcement to make. Keep your dates free. October 19th, 2022, keep the date free. We are organizing a virtual IC Squared SARC regional conference. Right, and I have also extended my invite to Nitin and his team. So if time permits for them, they will also be there talking about one specific area so that we will continue to have a dialogue on this area. So with that note, I want to quickly thank all of you and also my board for being supportive and providing all the necessary help and support to get this program off the ground. Thank you so much and have a great evening.